Well, that ended abruptly. Commercial break over. Wow, you said it was going to end early. I didn't realize it was going to end that early. So, all right, a little off guard here. Welcome back to the AM Drive here with Mike and Aaron, presented by 12 Ounce Sports. And this segment is presented by Amazon. I shop Amazon. You shop Amazon. Our guest, I assume, shops Amazon. For sure. When you do so, please use 12ozsportsradio.com/Amazon. Gives us a little bit of kickback, and it costs you nothing extra to do. All right, we are back. We are talking football because training camps are in full effect. We've got things going on, and the Giants are fighting already. And I'm sure our next guest loves every bit of that. So let's go ahead and introduce him. The host of the Ball or Nothing podcast, Joey Capusta. You can find them at BON_pod on Twitter. Find Joey at Scooter McGilly1. That is MCGILLI1. Joey, thank you so much for taking time and coming aboard to talk some football today.
Aaron and Mike, thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. Look forward to talking some ball with you guys.
I like this guy.
Most definitely. Well, you know what? I had to find. I think he's an appropriate person to talk NFC East football for sure. I know he's a Philly guy as well. So we're going to jump right into the NFC East here. And one word to describe the division last year, Joey.
If I'm using one word, dysfunction, I would say. And possibly, I don't know if this is two words, but emergency room. You take a look around the NFC East last year between, Dak getting hurt, between everybody but Wentz on the Eagles getting hurt, and then Wentz playing terribly. The Giants had a slew of injuries with Saquon getting injured as well. And then the Washington football team, whatever you want to call them, in flux with all the different, in and out pieces that they had as well. So there was so much dysfunction that a 5-6 win team was still battling for the division title in week 15 and 16 last year. That's how bad it was. So if there's one word to describe the NFC East last year, definitely was the NFC least. But I would definitely say dysfunction and injury has got to be right up there.
Yeah, shout out Spike McGawson for your horrible analysis that the NFC West was worse than the NFC East. Again, that was preseason, but it needs to be said nonetheless. I've never forgotten. Let's stay in that NFC East right now. And like you said, we've got 4 quarterbacks, and don't let them try to dissuade you here. According to Mike, Daniel Jones is the best one in the division.
Danny Dimes.
You've got Ryan Fitzpatrick. You've got Dak Prescott. You got Jalen Hurts, and you got Danny Dimes. Who's under the most pressure this year to get that division title for their team?
If you talk about the most pressure, how could it be anybody other than Dak Prescott? You talk about the offseason intrigue that came with, is he going to get paid? Is he going to get his contract? Is Dak going to get tagged again? And Jerry, backed up the Brinks truck and made Dak one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. Does he deserve it? Based on stats, you could say yes. Yeah. Based on wins and pedigree and where that team has gone, you could say no. But either way, they paid him because I think they looked at what they had last year in Ben DiNucci and some of these other guys, Garrett Gilbert coming in, and they were providing nothing other than basically a stick figure standing back there and just waiting until that final whistle blows at the end of the game. So I think the most pressure has to be Dak. We hear every year, America's team, Dallas has the most stacked roster. They have the best offense in the NFC. Zeke is in the best shape of his life. We're out of excuses. We can't blame Jason Garrett anymore, right, guys? We can't blame Jason Garrett. We can't blame the play calling. What is the excuse now, Dak? What is the excuse? So if you're looking at pressure, based on the offensive weapons in that division, Dallas probably has the best from top to bottom. So if you have the best offensive weapons, you were just paid to be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL per year, based on obviously that the structural, everybody's numbers that come in line. How can it not be Dak Prescott? America's team. We're Super Bowl favorites every year, right, guys? So it's got to be Dak. Most pressure every year.
Yeah, they're the Super Bowl favorites, Mike. Just ask them. They'll tell you.
Yeah, and I want to talk about the two teams that I believe are, if there is, like, let's say if there's a threat to the Cowboys, let's say if there's one team to piss the Cowboys off, I think the Giants, with the way their defense played last year, like kept them in the game against the Buccaneers. If Daniel Jones and his left tackle have a pulse this year, they're going to play well. As for the football team, I like Ryan Fitzpatrick if they let him loose and play well. Which of those two teams should give Cowboys fans most fits and, well, most problems?
Well, I see you left my Eagles out of that equation, so I'll answer your question. I'll answer your question based off those two options. But if I had to choose between the two, I would say the Washington football team, and it's solely based on how scary I think that defense is. They say football is won in the trenches, and if I had to look at the Giants defense and the Washington defense, I know they're both good, but then if I flip it around and I look at the Giants offensive line, nothing really there bothers me, and it hasn't bothered me there for about 5 years now, guys.
Yeah.
I know they've made some strides to put Band-Aids on things, but when you look at that Washington defensive line, that front seven, that Ron Rivera style of attacking defense, I mean, it's going to give teams fits. And we just talked about how well of an offense Dallas has. We don't know about Dak's shoulder. We don't know about Dak's ankle, if it's going to be 100% or not, what's going on. Travis Frederick retired for the Dallas Cowboys, their longtime Pro Bowl center. So they have a new center in there. I'm not 100% in love with Connor Williams at left guard. So you talk about trench warfare right there. That can disrupt a lot of the things that Dallas does on offense or likes to do from a timing standpoint. So if I had to choose between the two, to answer your question, I would say Washington, and I'd give them the edge just based on that front seven and defense. I think it's that good.
I'm kind of with you on that. Although I am a big Daniel Jones guy, I like the point about flipping the field. That's completely true. Plus, you have a guy like a Terry McLaurin. Come on, he's a beast. No matter which quarterback you put him with. For your Eagles, before I let Aaron move on to the AFC East, your Eagles have Jalen Hurts, a guy who I used to not care for, but he keeps on being a teammate and he keeps on improving at something in his game. I believe if there is a quarterback who's not very good, but to look good anyways, it's Jalen Hurts, because he's going to find a way to not screw it up. He might not be the greatest passer, but he's always impressed me with something, even though I try to hate him.
Yeah, and I think that's a good analysis right there. And I'll tell you what, boys, I was a big Wentz guy. Big Wentz guy, defending him to the end. When we took Hurts in the second round, I thought it was a dumb pick. So I'm having to slowly, like yourself, wrap my brain around this whole Jalen Hurts thing. And with the countless amount of film that I've watched, with the small sample size that I watched last year, like you said, with the leadership style that he has and everything, is he the most polished passer? No. Is he going to throw the most beautiful ball you've ever seen? Absolutely not. Is he a 6'5", 220-pound prototype with a cannon arm? Absolutely not. But I hearken him back to a guy like Steve McNair, where Steve McNair was a guy who, in your huddle, was going to give you the best chance to win every single game. It may not be pretty. It may not be the most beautiful thing. The stat sheet at the end of the day may not look the best, but guess what? He's going to put us in the best position to win. All the other 10 guys on offense know that he's going to lead us, and we have his back. He has ours. And the work that he puts in, the threat he can be athletically with his feet in the run game as well, yep, I think is what sets him apart. So that's kind of my comp for Jalen Hurts. And that's why I have somewhat of a cautious optimism this year going in on that offense, based on the creativity of Nick Sirianni coming in with a new scheme that'll fit Jalen Hurts. So I'm really excited from that standpoint based on what you were talking about. But I can see a Steve McNair type, where it's not pretty, but hey, it's winnable.
I like the locker room thing.
Yeah, and I mean, Jalen Hurts said it best this offseason, baby. The rent is due every day. I love that when, given his pedigree, he's always been kicked to the side. So,
yep,
everybody loves an underdog, and he's definitely the dog in that fight, especially with the new coach in the division. There you go.
I love that shirt.
I knew you guys were going to bring that up, so I had to make sure I had the underdog shirt on, ready to go for you.
Fair enough. They're still going to finish fourth, but fair enough.
Whoa.
All right, let's switch gears over to the AFC East, and it is Buffalo's division at this point after a thunderous reign by the New England Patriots. The Buffalo Bills are 145 favorites to win that division, even with the extra game. Do you think that this whole moving to Austin thing could cause a distraction in Buffalo?
I don't. I think these owners have more money than they know what to do with, and I think it's a power play just to kind of, get some money either from, the taxpayers, get a little extra incentive in there. I don't think it's going to be a distraction at all, and I don't think anything else in that division is going to be too much of a distraction for the Bills. I look at the divisions across, the NFL, and this might be, to me personally, one of the most lopsided. I think it's the Bills and everybody else. I don't think the Austin thing is going to come up. Even if it did, that wouldn't be for another, 4, 5, 6 years. Austin has to get approved. They got to break that ground. They got to do all that stuff. So I don't think it's going to be a distraction for them amongst the many things. If this Bills team stays healthy, I don't think it's a contest.
All right, Joey, we're talking to Joey Capusta, host of the Ball or Nothing podcast. You can find them on Twitter at @BON_pod. Talk me off the ledge here, Joey. I'm a degenerate gambler. How do I not want to take the Jets at 20-1 to win the division here?
Oh, man. I'm a gambler myself, and I understand that those odds pay dividends, but you're going to be on the one side of that. It is the Jets are a very comical organization. Now, look, I like Robert Saleh. I think that he is the right person for the job. But this isn't an overnight fix. This isn't a Band-Aid. This is going to be something where he needs 3 to 4 years to get that entrenched. And, they don't even have a veteran quarterback on the roster to help Zach Wilson, to groom him, to be in his ear every day in the meetings, showing him how to be a professional, showing him how to act in the QB room and study. So I know the odds are very enticing to throw some money down on that, but the only way I think you hit on that is if the Bills move to Austin in the middle of the night in the season. Josh Allen decides to retire. You're looking at, Dan Marino comes back and tries to make a comeback for the Dolphins. It's going to be bad. And even though TB12 isn't there in New England, this is going to be another slow burn for the Jets, in my opinion. They have guys, but they don't have a team, if that makes sense. And
totally fair.
I think a lot of pressure is going to be on Zach Wilson, especially being the number 2 overall pick here, to prove that. And that could be too much too soon for him.
I have a question for you, real quick. So, with the, you mentioned, since we're on the Jets right now, I guess I'll get to this one first, and I guess I'll let Aaron go on the next one. But the Jets, you mentioned Robert Saleh. Obviously, it's not going to be an overnight fix. That reminds me of the other New York team, Joe Judge. A tough guy comes in there. They have a decent, promising quarterback who certain people like, certain people don't. But yet he makes it work based on defense. I know coaches I know this players seem to like him. Do you think Robert Saleh is like a Joe Judge, just a tough guy comes in there and helps the Jets out? And I don't know about instant dividends. Does he seem like a Joe Judge?
Yeah, it's an interesting comparison because I know that, obviously Saleh was a defensive guy. I know Judge was a special teams guy.
Right.
So they bring a little bit of a different style with them. Honestly, if I'm truly thinking about this, I wanted Saleh for the Eagles in the offseason when his name became available because I really like the pedigree. Plus, I like the offensive coordinators he was bringing with him from San Francisco. It's that Kyle Shanahan mode where it's quick read system. It's quick read. And I think that could help Zach Wilson, even though on the contrary, they talked about Zach Wilson's best attribute being able to work off script, being able to scramble outside the pocket, hit deep plays, and improvise. So it's kind of a contrast in styles, but I think for a rookie QB, it's best. Now, to answer your question, I do think because Joe Judge came from a special teams background and he wasn't as established as an assistant offensive or defensive coach, I think he tries to overcompensate a little bit with his toughness.
There you go.
I think you're seeing a little bit of that in New York. Now, look, I get training camp fights happen all the time. I get it's hot out there, we're hitting, and people are going to be upset. I totally get it. But the coaches and assistants running laps, the players doing push-ups until I say no. This reminds me of Remember the Titans, the early scenes when the guys couldn't get along together and he was trying to establish dominance. I think that works to a certain extent, but when you have some veterans on the team that are like, hey, guy, I've paid my dues. I'm a Pro Bowler in this league. I don't need to be doing this sort of thing. I think it can cause a little bit of a rift. So I get that they're both similar in that regards, but I think Saleh might be more of a player's coach, whereas Joe Judge might not. And I think you could see a little bit of that contrast there too.
Judge comes right off that Bill Belichick tree. So, I mean, it's like my way or the highway. And Belichick is results, and we'll see what happens with Joe Judge here. So, all right, we got about 2 minutes left here. I want to rope in the other two teams that we haven't talked about in the AFC East into one big question here. The X factors, I think, for the Patriots and the Dolphins are the quarterbacks. No secret there. How long of the leash? Now, I know there's not a lot behind Tua in Miami, but how long of a leash are we giving Cam Newton and Tua Tagovailoa in their respective teams here?
Well, the Tua one is interesting because he did not play well last year. And it's kind of an anomaly because you saw that the Dolphins had a decent record at times. I know that Tua got the win in a game against the Rams where the Dolphins scored 2 defensive touchdowns, and they also had a special teams return that they returned inside the opponent's 5-yard line. So that's almost
Rams, right?
Yeah, against the Rams, yeah. And
he only 70 yards passing.
You were talking about being a degenerate gambler. I had the Rams in that game, so I was a little bit upset. So I remember that specifically, but it's things like that. I'll be honest with you guys. I wasn't a big Tua fan coming out. I thought he had an elongated release, and it wasn't very quick. And an elongated release can work if you're a larger stature quarterback because you're throwing with that overhand motion and you're taller, so you can get it there. But Tua's not the tallest guy. He may be 6', even 5'11", and some change, and he has that elongated release. So I think that's kind of an issue for him. I know the supporting cast that he had at Alabama. Any one of us could have played quarterback at Alabama at that time. It was really good. So I think he's hitting that learning curve, and I think it's going to be a little bit tough for him. I do think the leash is longer for him than Cam, though.
I agree.
Because the Dolphins didn't take a first-round quarterback this year as their future, whereas the Patriots did. So you look at a guy like Mac Jones. I mean, the records he set at Alabama. We're talking about 2 Alabama guys here. We know what type of quarterback Belichick likes. He likes that statuesque, large quarterback that's going to get the ball out of his hands quick to his playmakers. Cam comes from a different style where he could take off whenever he wants to. He can launch that deep ball to one of his guys. They don't necessarily have the team in place that fits Cam's skill sets, in my opinion. So longer leash, I think, is Tua, but I don't think either is the long-term answer for either of the teams.
Joey Capusta, host of the Ball or Nothing podcast. Once again, find them at BON_pod, and you can find him at Scooter McGilly1. Thank you so much for joining us. When we come back, we are going to do a Vice Golf hat giveaway. Stick and stay on the other side. Once again, thanks to Joey. We're going to commercial break.
Thanks, Joey.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.